Court is calling 2025 CR 005777 State versus Alexander Roca. Could I have parties announced for the record?
Megan Galloway from State.
Alex Shar for Mr. Roca.
And are you Mr. Roca?
Yes, ma'am.
Let me see what page you're on. All right, you entered a plea of guilty on June 20th. There was a request for a PSI and TAP evaluation. Have both parties received the PSI and the TAP evaluation?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes,
Any
Judge.
objections?
Not from State, Your Honor.
Judge, I don't have any objection to the TAP evaluation. I did want to be heard on the recommended conditions of deferred adjudication.
All right, according to your plea bargain agreement, there's $1,000 fine. State recommends deferred adjudication, and there's $60 to DPS. All right, counsel, do you have any witnesses?
I do not, Judge.
All right, state, any witnesses?
No, Your Honor, this is a case where State had recommended deferred adjudication. Honorable Judge Raymond Angelini was presiding, and so he did order the PSI, and so I don't have.
All right, anything you wish to say on behalf of your client, and state you may be excused.
Judge, the recommendations that were made by the officer on page 10 of the pre-sentence investigation report. Now, yes, this case started off as a DWI case, but it wasn't a drinking while it wasn't a driving while drinking intoxicated. When they stopped him, they found the marijuana in the car. He had admitted to smoking marijuana earlier in the day. They did testing, and they didn't test for alcohol. Gave a breath sample, but they did test for Delta 9 THC, and it came back above the level.
And if he's drug tested today, what are the results going to be?
He tells me he will be negative.
All right, he's going to get drug tested today, but continue.
Certainly. And so, you know, I understand that the state outside the plea agreement recommended that he have ignition interlock for half the term. Well, that device, you know, just tests for alcohol, ethanol, and not for, you know, for marijuana or cannabis. So I don't think he needs the ignition interlock, but more importantly, they're recommending that he cannot drive at all for the full term of supervision. And he is working, and in fact, I need to update the court.
All right, so I don't see where that says no driving. And no, that is a recommendation by probation. I thought you meant that was a recommendation from the state.
Well, just the ignition interlock was recommended in the plea agreement, well, outside the plea agreement, you know, at the bottom of that page. But the probation officer was recommending no driving for the full term of supervision. You know, he has, he's living with the mother of his children. They're together. He does have training as a barber, but within the last 3 weeks, he started working for Vivint, which is a home security company. He's a salesman for them. He works Monday through Saturday. And that's the type of job he's doing now. He needs to be able to drive. He needs to be able to, for work and to take care of his family. Mother's children also works 50 hours a week. And so they're doing everything they can to live and take care of their young ones. And so really, I don't have any objections to the TAP evaluation. I would just ask the court to not impose the ignition interlock.
All right, let's do this. You say you're going to be negative? All right, so I'm going to have you go do a drug test, and then we'll come back and I will make a decision on your application. All right, so this is what the court is going to do. The court will sentence you to 2 years deferred adjudication. There's $1,000 fine.
Sorry, just one moment.
No problem.
30.
All right, the court is calling, well, we're back on the record in 2025 CR 005777, State versus Alexander Roca. Okay, they tell me that you were negative, which is great. So it seems that you've learned some things, okay? So there's going to be 2 years deferred adjudication, $1,000 fine to be probated. There's $60 to DPS for testing. Proof of employment within 30 days. No employment as a home health care provider or with minors. Do you have children?
Yes, ma'am.
And what are their ages?
2 and 7 months.
All right, there's a 200 hours community service restitution. That will be deemed satisfied upon completion of parenting classes. There's to be regular reporting by Zoom or in person, regular random UAs. State, on this case, he's just charged with possession of marijuana. And outside the agreement, you all have DWI education, victim impact panel, ignition interlock for half the term.
Judge, at this, I would, waive the ignition and interlock this because, and the reason that was the recommendation is because there's common misdemeanor to TWI, these years of 10 or 4, so I would still, request a classes will waive, ignition and interlock as alcohol is not a factor.
All right, there's the DWI education course, the victim impact panel. Field visits 1 time per month for 4 months. Probation, is there anything else that he needs?
Okay.
Is there anything else you need from the court in order to be successful?
No, Lisa.
All right, did you review the document entitled Trial Court Certification of Defendant's Rights to Appeal with your attorney? Did you understand it and did you sign it?
Yes, Your Honor.
Because this is a plea bargain agreement, because I followed your plea bargain agreement, counsel, and because you waive your right to appeal, you do not have the court's permission to appeal. Do you understand?
Yes.
In order to be successful in this court on probation, communication is key. If there's an issue, let your probation officer know about it. If you feel as though they're not addressing it, you can always come back to the court. Do you understand?
Yes.
All right, good luck to you.